Here we are. All right. So, hi everybody. Thank you for tuning in live. If you are tuning in now, and if you aren't watching live, you're probably watching the replay, or you're watching us on our new YouTube channel, Creative Life Scholars on YouTube. I am joined today by the wonderful and lovely Kristi Keller, who is going to be talking to us about travel blogging. And I think this is a really interesting topic, and she has a lot more experience in it than I do and many of the people that I've ever met do. So I'm really excited to dive in to this. So hi, Kristi, how are you today?
Hi, Sam. Good. I'm good. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to put on clothes and wash my hair today.
I know, it's wonderful, right? Have these
I know.
every now and then.
Yeah.
So for everyone who's watching, if you have any questions while we're live or after the replay, definitely share them in the comments and we'll do our best to get back to you on the questions. So the first question that I wanted to start with today was, Kristi, how did you get started as a travel blogger?
That's a good story. It's my favorite story ever because I had never traveled internationally before 2003. And I won a trip off a local radio station here. And
Whoa.
the trip was, I know, right? The trip was to Jamaica. And so I went there and it was a really quick 5-day trip. But I fell in love with it while I was there. So I came home, bought a ticket, and went back 2 months later. And like I've always been a writer, and back in the day, like in 2009 is when I started my travel blog, and blogging wasn't really a thing. So I mainly just started it. It's only about Jamaica. It was very niche. But I started it only really to journal my thoughts, and it just started attracting a lot of people because, like I said, blogging wasn't a real big thing back then. So it didn't take long for it to attract a lot of traffic because it was hyper niche, just Jamaica. So people looking for Jamaica found the blog because there wasn't that many. So that's how I got into it. And I just kept going back and back and back
Back
and
to
kept writing
Jamaica?
about it. So yeah, like I've been there 36 times,
Holy cow.
and yeah, and I stayed there twice. Like 2 of those times I didn't come back.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Was it
Yeah.
like a specific area of Jamaica that you like to stay, or did you travel around there?
In the beginning, it was the first area that I was really familiar with. It was where I won the trip to in Negril. But actually, I was really lucky on that first trip. I met a police officer who, it's a long roundabout story about why I met that person. It was, but anyways, the second time I went back, he drove me around like the whole island in the week that I was there. And I discovered like Negril was not the place to be. It's a really big tourist place, but I just realized that there was so much more to it. So eventually, yeah, I just started going around the whole island. Like I have done literally everything there is to do there.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a
Yeah.
lot.
I mean, that's amazing. What an amazing experience to have. So did you, and I'm assuming that you've like stayed with people that you've known, or did you stay at resort? I mean, I'm assuming you didn't stay at resorts forever.
I've done both. So the 2 times that I was there for extended periods, one of the times I had my own apartment. So I had an apartment here and there. And the second time I went there, I was hired to go down. It was a website, a villa rental website down there. And so the people running that website put me up in a villa for the work contract that I was on.
Wow.
But yeah, I've stayed with locals. I have tons of friends there, like Jamaican people. So I've stayed with them. I've also stayed in a lot of hotels and resorts that I've reviewed because as the travel blog got more well known and I won a couple awards and stuff, so I started getting asked to come down to write reviews and things like
Oh
that.
my
So
gosh.
I
Wow.
know. I know.
Wow. So like,
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
yeah. So how do
Yeah.
you get to that point of, I mean, you mentioned it a little bit before that it was early and you kind of got in early and it was niche, but how did you
hmm
get to that point where you were being recognized for your work?
Um, Well, like you just said in the beginning, it was because there weren't that many blogs. And but as you go, so then I started my social media program, and like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Facebook was actually my big home base. And what's really funny is that group, I retired my blog a year and a half ago. That group, there's still people there. Like every day I see notifications on Facebook that are joining it. There's over 5,000 people in that group.
Oh my gosh.
But you just get the traffic because once you're known for a thing, then people are following you for a reason, right? A lot of people love Jamaica, so they were following the blog for that reason. In particular, they started, like when I started writing reviews, they were following because I'd like to focus on not the big common resorts that you would find on Google, but I would dig out the little local accommodations that you could stay for like $30 a night. And that's when people really started getting into it, because there were places there that you wouldn't really know about if you were just Googling. So they would find my blog online if they were Googling places to stay. And then that's kind of how I grew the following, just by writing about non-touristy stuff. I like to go off the beaten path.
Love that.
Yeah.
That is so cool and really valuable, really useful for people, I'm sure, to like know that kind of stuff, because you could easily, spend an arm and a leg and your firstborn child's worth of money going to a place like Jamaica, I would assume. They make
You
that
can,
probably
yeah,
very
you
easy for you to
can.
do.
Yeah,
So then,
they
have
do.
other options.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was like, yeah, that was kind of my niche within the niche, is supporting local businesses, right? Like anyone can book a trip to Sandals, but if you can find a really cool out of the way beachfront cabin for $40 a night, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know?
And
Yeah.
that kind of eliminates some of the risk and excuse too.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that the money, it's not going to be a good place because I'm not spending a lot of money kind of fear gets eliminated to
Hmm.
some extent. So that's
Yeah, there's two different camps of travelers though. Like a lot of people will just do a resort because they like it easy. They want to get off the plane, get on a bus, go to their resort and not worry about where their next meal is coming from. But a lot of people like want to dig into local cultures when they travel, but they don't know how. And so just by trial and error, I was doing that, and then I would write about it and then put people into contact with the right things to do and people to meet. So it was really neat.
So did you focused exclusively on Jamaica? Did you expand out to any other places, or was it really mostly just Jamaica?
It was always Jamaica for 10 years. And, kind of the reason behind that was because eventually over time, as you get well known, it just became easy and cheap. I had a vehicle sponsorship, like Budget Rent a Car gave me free vehicles. I pretty much had free accommodations everywhere I went. So it became easy and cheap and familiar.
Yeah.
But the reason, like, I don't know, after 10 years, the reason I retired the blog is because I kind of felt like I'd done everything there is to do. And and so I retired it. I didn't shut it down. It's still live. But then the following year, after my last trip to Jamaica, is when I went to New Orleans. And I don't know if you've read that story, but it's a big, giant, long, amazing story of my 10 days in New Orleans. And then I was like, oh my God, there's other places to go. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I guess I dipped my toe into travel blogging, and
Yeah.
the issue for me was, like, how do you enjoy yourself? Like, how do you feel like you don't have to be like documenting every single thing of your time away? And also, like, how do you travel blog but also does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And there's two different sides to it. So, I mean, after a while, I would put myself on a schedule. So I would just make a point of enjoying everything that I was doing kind of during the day, but I would always sit down at nights whenever I was finished for the day. And even if I wasn't writing a blog post, I would be journaling. The best key to not forgetting any of the stuff that you've done, if you're going to write about a later date, is go through your photos, like your photos on your phone. For me, it's like a chronological document of everything you've done. And then the other side of that is, because you're a travel blogger, you specifically go out of your way to look for weird or interesting things to do. And so that in itself, like it's not an obligation. It actually gets you more out looking for more things to do. So you do enjoy yourself for sure. The hardest thing to do as a solo traveler slash travel blogger is take pictures of yourself.
Right, right.
But yeah, so I didn't
Well, I'm really
do the
glad you
selfie
brought that
stick
up
thing.
too. Sorry, what did you
Yeah.
say?
Oh, I said I didn't do the selfie stick thing, like not until it wasn't a thing back in the day.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole
Yeah,
different conversation. The
I
selfies.
know. I know.
So
Yeah.
my question was, 'cause I just finished reading Cheryl Strayed's Wild, and I
Yeah.
don't know if you've read that or not, but I really
I
enjoyed it.
saw the movie.
Yeah, so now I haven't seen the movie, but I just listened to her book on Audible, and it was so
Yeah.
amazing. But there is
Yeah.
some risk in traveling by yourself as a woman. I mean, in Wild, I have to admit, she got into 2 situations. I'm surprised that she didn't get into more situations, but she goes through, like, the
Hmm.
emotions of how she kind of grappled with it emotionally. But I'd love for you, 'cause there are a lot of women in the CLS group, and, you know, when I think about traveling by myself as a woman, it does give me pause. So I'd love to, if you don't mind
Yeah.
speaking about that, I'd really appreciate that.
No, not at all. I prefer traveling solo because I hate having an agenda. And like I've traveled with friends before too, but it's like you're waiting on them and I don't know. I prefer traveling alone in Jamaica particularly. It's annoying traveling alone as a single female because any of those island countries if you went, everyone wants to be your husband and everyone thinks you have money. And so it's
Hmm.
annoying and a little bit difficult sometimes to be a solo female. There's only been a handful of times that I felt a little unsafe. And I think the majority of those times was because I drove. A lot of people take taxis when they go on vacation and stuff, but after I got my vehicle sponsorship, I ended up just driving everywhere by myself. And because I look for the remote, off the beaten path places, you know, you're really obvious there because if you're white, you really stick out there. So if you're driving on a country road and they can see through the windows that there's a white woman driving alone, you know, you never know. Like I hear stories, lots of stories. Not everywhere is the same, I guess, but in Jamaica in particular, there can be questionable situations. But I never ran into any. I feel really lucky.
Yeah, that's awesome that you didn't run into
Yeah,
any. That, you know, that
yeah,
says something. The
yeah.
fact that you spent so many years traveling back and forth and you really spent a lot of time there by yourself, like, that says something.
Hmm.
I think we
Yeah.
build it up, like,
I
I think
think
we build up the fear more. I mean,
yeah.
when it happens, it's devastating. Like, when I was reading Wild, the, like, most severe, crazy, horrible thing that happened to her happened, like, almost at the
Mhm.
very end of her, hiking. And she was
Mhm.
basically like, you know, I've spent all these weeks out here, and if this thing were to have, like, if this moment were to have gone just slightly differently, it would have ruined my entire trip, despite, like,
Yeah.
all of the other weeks of time that she was fine. It's
Yeah.
And that's how it is. It's like, you know, the one time will devastate you. But it doesn't
Yeah.
happen that
Yeah.
frequently, it seems.
No, and I find the big difference is kind of in the way you carry yourself too. If you look like you know where you're going, if you look like a self-assured person, you're less likely to be bothered in the wrong way. You're more likely to be approached by people who are just interested, right? Like when I would meet Jamaicans and they would find out like who I am or what I was doing there most of the time, they all just wanted a lot of them just wanted to hang out and be part of it. Like, when I was living down there the second time, I rented a room in a big house, and my landlord, he was this young guy, lived in the same house, and we went on adventures together all the time because they just want to be in on it, right? And also, if you're willing and open, they will take you to places that you would never find on your own, which is amazing.
Right, yeah. It's definitely that balance of being
Yeah.
fearless to some, not fearless, but brave to some extent, but
Mm.
also, like, protecting yourself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
feeling that risk sometimes too. But that's a
Yeah.
great segue to my
Yeah.
next question, which was, what tips do you have for people who want to become, are interested, inspired by your story, or, have their own inspiration and want to become a travel blogger?
I would say, the same old usual tips that you read on Medium, just write, but keep a journal though. If it's hard to provide tips like from scratch kind of thing, but if you've ever traveled, I feel like even people who don't travel and live in a city, every city is a destination to someone. Like, I don't know what Baltimore is like, and you live there, right? So if you didn't travel, but you wanted to do something like travel blogging, just start writing about things to do, places to go, in your own city or when you travel. I think one of the coolest tips that I have, because people used to ask me a lot when I was a travel blogger, like, what do you write about? How do you decide what to write about? And to me, everything is a story. Like, I don't know if you saw that one thing I wrote on Medium, even a cockroach. I can write a whole story about finding a cockroach in my room, and because they're funny, right?
Right.
And literally everything is a story. If you're telling it to people who have never been to that destination or never experienced that, they're going to be entertained by it regardless. Um, so yeah, I think that's probably the best tip I could give is think outside of your box and write about everything. I've written about spiders, cockroaches, resorts, everything, taxis,
Yeah, no, that's a
everything.
great,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, if people are wanting to learn about travel to a certain place, they want to know everything. Like, how do you take a local taxi? How much should it cost? And those might seem basic to some people, but it's like actual information to others.
Yeah, it's putting on that hat of curiosity and looking at your situation from a different perspective. I love that. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good.
So let me ask
Thanks.
you a technical question. So
Okay.
I've met you because we're both bloggers on Medium, which is kind of a weird thing for me to think about because I'm a poet, and being like a poet blogger seems a little strange to me.
Yeah.
But I met you that way. And from the perspective of travel blogging, is it a good
Mm-hmm.
place to get started as a travel blogger on Medium, or do you have a suggestion for where it might be a good place, like from a technical perspective online, for where a travel blogger could get started?
I would say if you want to travel blog, you should start your own, like your actual own website. If you're gonna do it, if you want to do it on Medium, I'd post first to your blog, and then, how they say you can write the same story on Medium, but I would have the canonical link to your actual blog so that your blog is the authority. The reason I say that, I think travel is hit or miss on Medium in my experience. But people who read actual travel blogs, they're looking for that. And I don't know, I haven't found Medium to be super successful with travel stories.
So is
So I
there
would say start a blog first.
so when you say start your own website, like, do you mean like a WordPress site, or do you mean like, is there a specific?
Yeah.
Okay.
I set up on WordPress for any website that I create. I'm always on WordPress. But I don't know, I've never worked with Squarespace, or what is that other one, Wix? I think anywhere where you can have a custom domain, like have your own domain. Don't make it like at wix.com. Just buy a domain name. Um, and then write all your stories on your own blog first. If you transfer them over to Medium if you want to try it out, but I just feel like with my travel publication, I can see stats for all the writers that I have within my travel pub on Medium.
Well,
And
what's your travel
I
bubble
mean, not,
medium?
what is it? You don't know?
Yeah.
It's Writers on the Run.
Writers on the Run. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's been some stories that have gone off the charts there, not mine. But for the most part, I think travel's just kind of like a straight line on Medium. It's, yeah, it depends.
That's a good place for
But
people
I
to
would
get
say,
started to get inspiration, though.
yep. Yeah, but like I was saying, if you have your own blog first and then you start writing on Medium, then you can have a link on your Medium publication to your blog. So it's one cohesive thing. But I think to attract specific traffic, it's probably better to have your own blog first.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the question that I like to end. I'm, going to try to end every interview with. So
Okay.
what does it mean to you to live a creative life?
Um, to me, it means pretty much everything. Like, I have a job, not right now, but I have a job. I've always had a job, even when I traveled. And to me, the creative side of my life has been the outlet for everything. Um, I can't imagine not writing. Even when I didn't blog, I always wrote. Um, and when I retired my travel blog, I immediately found Medium. I just, I can't imagine not writing. So it's my creative life is my outlet for everything opposite that.
I love that. I love that balance that it gives you, because
Yeah.
I think that's so important for
Yeah.
people to know and understand too. We could
Agreed.
have a whole entire conversation about that, to be honest. I definitely want
I
to get,
know.
yeah.
I know.
So
I try and inspire everyone to be creative. Like, I just want everyone to write, like, get it out, write.
yeah, writing is so cathartic. It's really important for people to do, especially just journaling. I think,
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
necessarily showing it to anyone, but just getting it out of you
Yeah.
is really
Yeah.
important.
Agreed.
So it
Agreed.
doesn't look like we have any questions yet, but if you are watching the
Okay.
replay, feel free to ask questions and either tag me or Kristi, and I will tag her to answer your questions. And are there any last thoughts that you want to leave about travel blocking?
Not about travel blogging, but about your Facebook group in particular. I think that it's really great that this sprung up at this time. You know, you started this since lockdown, right? Basically, or was it before?
It was a little bit before that, but
A little bit before. I just think it's really great. Like, I've you in the group before. I think it's amazing that you're able to keep a group running, especially in this time when inspiration is low. So I think it's really awesome what you're doing.
thanks. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I hope that it gives
Yeah,
an
you're
like a
doing a good
different,
job.
thank you. I'm really hoping that it gives a different perspective for people, because not
Yeah.
everything is doom and gloom, and
Yeah.
creativity is so important in our lives, and reaching it now, especially when it feels elusive and people are distracted by the bad things that are happening,
Yeah.
and consumed
Agreed.
with that. I think it's important to
Yeah.
remember creativity. So
Yeah. Look outside of the gloom and get inside to something else.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I've really appreciated this. I hope that everyone enjoys
No problem.
Kristi as much as I do, and we will answer your questions if you have any. And thank you all so much for watching. Bye.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks.
See ya.